Okay, so I'm just gonna pull up um, the website here and we'll start from there. So some of you may have received maybe an email directly from Leanne or found this online. If you found it online, it'll be somewhat redundant, but all of the opportunities that we post through our program come out through the Artist Opportunities page here on the Hillsborough City website. And it's a bit buried within the actual navigation of the website. So best option, either bookmark it or you can just type in Artist Opportunity City of Hillsborough and it will take you here. And we keep it as a live updated page. Anytime we have new calls posting here, we have some standing ones too. If you are interested, I'll just put a plug in for the Public Art Selection Committee roster. It's a paid opportunity to sit on selection committees for new projects. So check that one out as well if you have time. But we'll take a look at the Shute Library details here. And this is pretty standard for our postings. We try to include as much information here on the web page dropdown so that you can quickly read through and decide whether or not you want to read more or learn more about the opportunity. And so we always include the deadline. So deadline coming up just over a month, Monday, May 5th, 9 a.m. We make it 9 a.m. We found that a lot of artists are always working right up against the deadline, and a midnight deadline might feel cruel sometimes. So you can work late on this one and then double check your work in the morning before you submit it. And we'll start the review process first thing Monday when we get in. So for this project, we also, so yeah, budget eligibility, my contact information, description is all kind of the key information that hopefully will help you understand if this is a good project for you. We have a 15,000 total artist contract budget for this project. And I'll get into the details of what's expected within that budget. The eligibility, we work with committee of community members on all these projects, and our committee felt very strongly that we should support an Oregon-based artist with this opportunity. And then the other encouraging language, so Hillsborough, Washington County-based artists, Indigenous, artists of color, all strongly encouraged to apply. And artists were part of the Shute Library community. And this is just the part of what the committee has asked that we look for in the artist, but it won't be part of the scoring process. It doesn't exclude anyone from applying, except if you're outside of Oregon. My contact information there, always give me a call, send me an email, come visit me at the Walters if you have questions, you want to chat about project opportunities. I'm always happy to make time. I love to meet new artists, learn about your practice and your work. Um, then we have the project description. And so I'm actually going to pull open the full project details so I can kind of walk through this in a little bit more depth. So we have project details. This is the full call to artists, both in English and Spanish here. This will take you to a PDF that you can download if you want to, or print out if you like to work that way better. And yeah, so same information is kind of contained at the top there. So the project at Shute Library, this is a really exciting opportunity. Shute Library is super busy location. It's located along TV Highway as it turns into 10th Ave, Calle Diaz. It's one of the nodes of downtown, one of the nodes of our cultural arts district. And this really large wall is kind of a gateway entryway into downtown Calle Diaz neighborhood, cultural arts district. It's a very prominent location. It's highly visible to lots of pedestrian, vehicular traffic, visitors to both Shute Park, all the events, cultural activities that happen there, as well as library patrons. So really sort of highly anticipated project with a lot of our partners here and with the community. Um, and the wall hosts, there's a sculptural work at the very eastern edge of the wall. It's a work by artist Blessing Hancock. It's called Shoot Seeds. That was a community community involved project where community members came together to create images um, that speak to the past, present, and future of Hillsborough. But the artwork is, we'll talk a little bit more about the location, but will be actually just west of that. So if you're looking at the wall just to the left, we're going to leave a buffer space around the sculpture as it lights up at night and casts a really beautiful shadow design across the wall. But this artwork opportunity, there used to be an artwork there called For Everyone by Christine Martel. It was another community engaged project that had welcome statements in different languages and contributions from youth and other community members. That was intended to be a temporary project. It was actually a reproduced artwork on a vinyl application. So it's basically large stickers that were applied to the wall. And it had outlived its life there, and this opened up an opportunity for this new artwork. And so the vision for this work is to create a flexible platform for the continuous rotation and changing of new artworks over time. And so we anticipate that the artwork selected for this round will be up maybe 3 to 5 years, but then we'll open the opportunity again for new artistic expression in the space. And to do that, we're actually fabricating a very large aluminum square tube framework that will be permanently installed on that wall. And it will measure 8 feet tall by 60 feet wide. And to that framework, we can attach panels that will host reproductions of artworks. So as opposed to this being a hand-painted mural opportunity, this sort of framing of the project really makes this type of opportunity more accessible to a much broader variety of artists. And so you don't have to have the experience working at a large scale or working in hand painting or in mural making. But we're really interested in the potential of hosting types of media that we typically don't see in the public realm, and potentially supporting artists who are emerging or trying to get a foot in the door in the public realm, or trying to gain that experience. And we're working with a local sign company, a local sign company. They're working with us to develop the framework, and they'll work with the selected artists to move through that reproduction process. They'll actually then produce the reproductions and provide the services for installing the artwork on the framework. So this is really just a design-only scope of work for the artist, which again keeps it hopefully much more accessible to a broader variety of artists. So I've covered a little bit more than what was in that initial project description area, but I'll walk through the design phase. So we are looking to select just one artist from this round and work directly with that artist through the design. And we'll ask the artist to submit a concept proposal that we'll share both with our community-based committee and also with the community for their feedback. We'll collect all that feedback, organize it, present this to the artist for any revisions that are being requested, and just work through that process together to refine the design to a point where we can reach an approval. And the approval goes through the Hillsborough Arts and Culture Council, which is a mayor-appointed council of community members who guide our work in cultural arts. The artwork specification section here. So this was describing the relationship with the sign company. And they said for the design of the final artwork, it should be designed in an aspect ratio that aligns with the format of the final artwork, so 8 foot by 60 feet. So you could break that down into any aspect ratio that you're comfortable working in. But it's a very sort of short but long format artwork. And then they can also provide some services to help with the translation process of that. So if you're creating like a physical artwork and need to photograph it or scan it, there's some guidelines here about the type of quality of file to provide. Or if you're working digitally, an EPS file or a true vector file is what they're looking for, but that'll be something that we'll coordinate very closely with the selected artists on and make sure there's a good rate of proofing and success in the resolution of that reproduction process. The total budget, the 15,000, as I mentioned, is all inclusive of the artist's work. So that will be any related travel, potentially some insurance requirements, and then working through the design phase, maybe potentially coordinating on meetings with some of the committee members and staff, and then meeting with the sign company to go through the proofing and printing process. And then being on site for seeing the installation happen and approving the final artwork at the end. For the timeline, so first couple items there related to the call. Questions deadline, April 28th. That just allows us enough time to receive the questions, provide a response, and make sure that we're able to share that response with everyone. And the application deadline, again, there, May 5th at 9 a.m. And then quickly after that, we'll move into review of the applications with the committee and likely have an artist selected probably by the end of June. And then we'll move pretty quickly with that selected artist into design work. Contracting will happen in there, then design work, design feedback. We held a little bit more time here for design feedback so we can go out and seek community input. And this is the community input will be a follow-up to a pretty extensive survey process that we hosted at the library last summer. So just a follow-up to that process. Design approval, seeking that through the Arts and Culture Council, October, November timeframe. And then it should be fairly quick to go through the reproduction installation process roughly around the end of this calendar year. Application workshop details. Congratulations, you made it here. Skip over that. So the location details, this is maybe a little bit redundant what I spoke through earlier, but yeah, it's just a high visibility wall. Lots of eyes see the wall. Yeah, the total wall space is quite large. As I mentioned, we're going to create a small buffer zone coming in from the side of the sculptural work. But then, and also the very large section of the building to the west, closer to Shute Park, won't be addressed by the mural, and I'll show that in a couple diagrams here. Let's see, I spoke through the aluminum display grid. So yeah, for context, map of the library here, and the wall space, and then the actual image. So this was the artwork for everyone by Christine Martel. This is the sculpture here by Blessing Hancock. And so this entire panel, this is about a 20-foot section, 20 foot in length. This will remain clean and open to highlight the sculptural work. And so then there are three 20-foot panels that compose this section of the wall that will feature the artwork. And yeah, the framework will actually sit roughly in this footprint of this artwork. So it'll be elevated above the ground by about 8 feet. And the existing hedges are planned to stay for now, and will continue to be trimmed and maintained as they are to allow visibility of the artwork. It also helps to limit access to the artwork and especially the framework. The project background section, I always like to share just some context for artists to think about their work coming into a site like this. Obviously, there's lots of community use, lots of different community users come to the library for many different needs, whether it be education or books or different media or community services or meetings. So it's a super active space, lots of visitors. They actually have a growing, in addition to the data they've shared here, 57,000 pieces of media. They have a very large growing Spanish language section, which is really cool. They also have a number of rotating artist areas, rotating artwork areas, small space by the restrooms, and then display cases on the entryway. So those typically feature local artists or artisans, locally made crafts. And then we have a couple of other public artworks on site. So in addition to the Blessing Hancock piece, there's a mural in the children's section by Angelina Marino Heidel. Features a really nice color palette and kind of a very sort of active sort of dreamscape of a child sort of transforming into a bird. So kind of playing off the idea of the transportation that happens through reading. Um, there are some tile mosaics that are currently set in the entryway plaza created by Luna Damo. Those are kind of speaking to some of the surrounding trees in symbols related to the trees in the area. And then the design and architecture of the library itself incorporates the first lines of popular poems and novels that are set in sort of semicircle rings that represent the rings of the trees. And then some other tree motif and elements in the fritting in the glass on the entryway facade. I see just a question coming in from Sasha. And I'll just address that now. Does the artist have to be from the Hillsborough area? No specific scoring restriction on Hillsborough-based artists, but we are encouraging artists from the area to apply. Or artists just have to be from within the state of Oregon. That's up in the eligibility section at the top. Let's see. Community survey results. So I mentioned bringing the designs out for community feedback. So summer 2024, we had both an online and in-person survey offered to collect feedback around themes and ideas for the mural. We had a really robust response, over 600 responses to the online and in-person. The online survey went out through direct mailers to a 1 mile radius around the library. And then we're also there in person with an in-person voting board. And so the desired outcomes and the themes here came directly from community members and what they want to see. There was a lot to sort through, and so the key themes that we pulled out were sort of the top and most represented from the survey responses. And really, I think the overarching desire that we derived from the feedback was the people of Hillsborough engaging with library activities, engaging with the local landscape, and the diversity of our community coming together. So there's a little bit more detail there. And with the selected artists, we will turn over the full survey results. So you can have get a sense of the broad variety of comments that came in and just read those unique comments directly from community members' language as well. So that'll be part of the kind of research design phase. Desired outcome section, this describes the artist that we're looking for. So, I think the committee is looking for a portfolio that will speak to this opportunity. So looking for works that are meeting some of these goal areas. So we'll talk a little bit more about portfolio submissions in a minute, but we're also looking for an artist that is willing to engage with us in this process and be open to working through feedback and potentially reworking the design to come to a consensus and agreement to get that approval through both the committee and the Arts and Culture Council. And an artist that is ready to take on this level and scope of work. If you have questions about that, whether or not you may be prepared, that's something I'd be happy to chat with you about. Selection committee, we always include just who's on that panel. So representatives from The Arts and Culture Council, that's required for all of our projects. We have representatives from the library board, neighbors who live in the surrounding neighborhood, and some local artists that will help us review these applications. And again, if you want a peek into what that process looks like, we have that open call for artists to join us in these review processes. So if you want to see the other side of how a committee might speak about your portfolio and your work, check that out. And then application instructions and requirements. And from here, I'm actually going to pop back out to the actual application form so we can just walk through that and talk through expectations. I'll check the chat real quick to see what's come in here. All right, Sasha also has a question. Can an artist submit more than one design for consideration? And I'll address that here as we get into the submission form. So from here, I'm just going to go back out to the opportunities page. And then the application form is right here at the bottom of this posting. And this will take you to, this is a form builder software that we use called Cognito. So this is pretty standard for most of our opportunities. If you applied for our projects before, you're probably familiar with it. If not, hopefully it's a pretty easy to navigate system. So we have just very quick information here. We haven't included the full details, but a link back out to those full details if you need it. And so here we're asking for contact information. Look at that in the form. A letter of interest. So the letter of interest is, I think, a really key piece of a successful application. So don't glaze over this one, or I would say, really be intentional with your letter of interest. We do require that our committee members read these letters of interest, so it's not just a rubber stamp item. And this is your opportunity as an artist to bring your voice into the room with those committee members. Without having the opportunity to directly interface with them at this application phase, this is your opportunity to highlight anything that's important about you, your practice, your art making, your specific interest in this project, how you might approach the project, why you're a good fit. So I think, yeah, be very intentional with this one page. Be thoughtful, and yeah, give the committee a sense of who you are and why you're a good fit for the project. That's a Word or PDF format. And then the statement bio. So with the ability to include a statement bio resume, I think the letter of interest should really highlight your intention for the project, as opposed to speaking about you and your practice. And the statement bio resume, that could be a mix, a combination of these, could be either or. We found that resumes, especially on projects where we're trying to encourage emerging level artists, can be pretty daunting, or can be a barrier if you don't have a lot of experience. So a statement about your work, statement about yourself, could be just enough. If you do have a resume of past works that relate to this, that you've worked in library projects, for the past 10 years, include that as well. But again, the committee is really interested in learning more about you and your work. And then your past portfolio of works. So you have up to 10 examples of current and past works. These are JPEG, PNG, and PDF files. So you can combine your whole portfolio into a PDF if you want, or you can attach individual JPEGs. And use these examples strategically. And so, in reading through the themes, the type of work, I would cater and be very selective of the works that you're putting forward for consideration. Because as the committee is looking at your portfolio, they're going to be discussing, can we see this artwork being translated into this opportunity? And so, Sasha, to follow up on your question, at this phase, we're not asking for actual design proposals. We just want to look at examples of your past work. And the committee is going to be looking at things like the type of content, the type of imagery that you're typically including in your work, the color palettes you're working with, the type of media you're working in. And that's going to inform their ability to sort of project how you might approach the project or what skills, what background you're bringing to this new design for the project. Um, and for the 10 examples, you don't have to use all 10. If you have a really strong portfolio of 5 or 6 images, just submit those 5 or 6 images. Um, if you have like a really strong body of work that you want to pursue for this project, and you have, 4 or 5, that's fine. That's plenty. We find oftentimes that artists will try to fill in those 10 works with maybe 5 or 6 strong art examples, and then include, kind of use fillers for those remaining images, and that really detracts from the committee's observation of who you are as an artist. It can be confusing for them if you present maybe one painting, one textile, one sculpture. So be consistent in what you think you want to make for this work. If you're a painter, but you really want to make a series of prints, it's probably good to have a couple of examples of prints, or vice versa. So just try to be representative of the direction you want to take when you submit your portfolio works. And then finally, the image list. So again, the image list is one more opportunity to insert your voice into that review process. Not only is it about the technical details of the work, and this is really important. The committee, oftentimes is looking at like, what's the scale of this? Like, when was it created? I would encourage you to submit more recent works, because again, the committee looks at a work that's like 10 years old, and they're going to question whether or not it's still relevant. Are they still making in that style? Is this what we're going to expect to see from the artist? And then the additional comment section, this is where, again, like take advantage of that 200 words per artwork. This can be your opportunity to describe, those differences. Like if you're maybe 5 of your image examples are paintings, and 5 are digital works. And you can use the comments section to say, these digital works, I plan to work digitally for this opportunity. These digital works are, from a previous body of work, but display my skills. But I'm going to pursue the painting examples as the works that I would like to create for this opportunity. So you can use that section to really differentiate, provide more information, provide clarification and clarity for the committee in the review process. And then the rest of the form, each of the asterisk sections indicate where we have required information. And for contact information, and then it's a drag and drop or upload for the letter of interest, statement bio, the portfolio, and the image list. And there's a little helpful text here that helps to remind you of the types of formats, what we're asking for. Again, my contact information is here, so let me know if you have any issues or problems with the form. And then you can give us some feedback if you want, and then a simple submission. And when you submit, you'll receive an automatic reply that we've received your work, and then it'll give you a quick timeline of what the notification period will be. So with that, I know it's a lot of information. I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll just open it up for questions. So Sasha, please let me know if I answered all your questions or if you have any follow-ups. And then anyone else, feel free to jump in.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, can I just like jump in? I'm not very familiar with like how to raise a hand in Zoom. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
sure. Yeah, go ahead, Victoria.
Hi, so this is Victoria. I'm also, my artist name is Viandara. And I have been looking at your general timeline, and I really love the collaborative aspect of this project. I think it's really awesome that it brings in the community feedback. And in looking at the timeline, it looks like there's a lot of space for the back and forth of like design creation and feedback and approval. And then it's like in 1 month, the project completion and dedication happens in December to January for a pretty large scale production. And so that's where my question lies, is that all along the way, like you're working with the committee and approving the design, but are you also working to create it, or is is the idea that like really you're just going to be kind of creating this in like a month or two?
I think that's a great point. And depending on the level of production, I think that's a conversation with the selected artist. We don't have a firm like completion deadline. And so, if the artist
Okay.
proposes to if you're going to propose to actually create maybe like a quarter scale artwork, which would be, very large, but if you need to work that way to find success in the process, I
Mhm.
think that's a point of negotiation at the contracting phase and just determining what the logistics are for the artist.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm a painter, and I've done a lot of work where I get my paintings photographed and then do reproductions. And it does make sense that you would want to work in that scale where like you're at the least at that like quarter um, scale, just so that you've got clarity in the DPI for that enlargement, because otherwise you could end up being pretty pixelated, right?
Yeah, and speaking with the sign company and having some past experience with reproduction processes, um, I think it really depends on the artist's working style. If you
Mhm.
feel like you need to work large to be able to capture enough detail for your image, then
Mhm.
that's I think the direction you need to go. Some artists really prefer to work very small and can capture a lot of detail in a very small scale. And the technology and the reproduction process has come such a far way in just the past few years,
Okay,
that even a very small scale work can be extrapolated to this scale, and still read very successfully.
that is amazing.
Yeah,
Because yeah, okay, well then that makes the project seem a little less daunting, because doing 15 panels at like even at a quarter of from the like 4 foot to 8 foot scale is it's a pretty big undertaking. So that's good to know. That doesn't
yeah,
have to be these huge pieces that you're creating,
right, right.
but can be done in a smaller scale. So
And
okay,
that's
awesome.
that's why, and that's again why we wanted to go with the reproduction route as opposed to original works because of the scale. The scale is really required based on the scale of the wall and wanting to attract the visibility especially from TV Highway and 10th, but
Mhm.
realizing how burdensome that work can be for a lot of artists working at that scale. And I worked previously for the city of Boise, and we had a huge traffic box wrap program. And I worked with artists in all media, working at all sizes to wrap those boxes. And
Mhm.
some artists were literally creating like 3x5 artworks to be reproduced on those boxes. So it's yeah, it's a pretty flexible process.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Other questions out there?
Actually, I have another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so I'm also interested in applying for this the other job that you were talking about, which okay, the Public Art Selection Committee.
Mhm.
Um, if you are on the Public Art Selection Committee, does that preclude you from applying for the mural project, or could you do both?
Yeah, um, anyone can apply for the general roster. So basically, we're creating like a pool or a roster of artists and arts professionals to work with on committees. And when we do the scheduling, I will reach out to pool members with the opportunity, and you can self-select or identify whether or not you want to apply and exclude yourself from being considered. But if you are selected to serve on a committee, you cannot also apply for it. So I think it's helpful in that, as a painter, you may be interested in serving on more sculptural based selection panels.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can kind of determine how you want to be involved and for which projects.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great questions. Thanks. Anyone else?
I have a
No,
question.
go ahead, Robin.
Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Um, do you know if the sign company is capable of printing in metallic?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. But that's something that I can follow up with them on. I don't know that they plan to print this on a fairly standard exterior grade vinyl wrap, and I think if you use like metallic media in your work, it would obviously go through the translation process. But I do know that there are metallic like vinyl application. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how that process would go. If it would just be, I think in the way that we've discussed it so far, it would just be a translation or that reproduction of the metallic material that you've used. But I'd be open to discussing with them, how we might be able to best achieve that metallic effect.
And also, I noticed in the previous mural there was not quite 15 panels, but this one will be 15.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's all.
And yeah, the 15 panels, they'll actually be mounted onto that framework seamlessly, so side by side, kind of seamlessly across. Um, However, one thing that we didn't really discuss, that's what's possible for the entire image area. Um, but we're also open to an artist who may want to present gaps within that framework. One of my ideas initially or early on was that didn't carry through with some of the community feedback was like more of a graphic novel style format of storytelling or narrative
Yeah,
where you could create kind of like, those typical comic book cells that might
yeah.
be interspersed across the space. Um, so the 15 panels, the full scale is that sort of seamless full span. But I think within that, there's kind of a wide range of possibilities based on, what the artist wants to do. And that's, I think, the beauty and the flexibility of it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Sean, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was just answered. I was wondering if you could double up. And also, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. And I'm looking forward to, going through the application process. You clarified a lot for me. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thanks, Sean. Well, if there's nothing else, like I said, if we end the meeting and you go, oh, yeah, forgot to ask him something, pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email, or come give me a visit, and we can chat about it. Um, so yeah, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to Corey and Jose for providing interpretation support for us. Very much appreciate that. And I'll look forward to seeing your applications come in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good luck, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.